Welcome to Puffy Paws AI.
Far away, deep inside a peaceful green forest, there was a beautiful blue lake that sparkled under the warm sunshine. Beside that lake lived a tiny little turtle named Teemo. Teemo was smaller than all the other turtles. He had a small brown shell, gentle eyes, and a very quiet voice. But there was one thing about Teemo that made him different from the others. Teemo was afraid of almost everything. He was afraid of deep water. He was afraid of loud storms. And most of all, he was afraid of taking big risks. Every day, Teemo watched the bigger turtles swim proudly across the deep lake. They splashed through the water fearlessly while Teemo stayed close to the shore. The rabbits often raced through the grass nearby. The birds flew high above the trees. And the squirrels climbed branches without fear. Sometimes Teemo wished he could be brave like them. But whenever he tried to do something difficult, fear stopped him. One afternoon, a playful little rabbit hopped over to Teemo and laughed kindly.
Why are you always hiding near the shore?
The world is so big,
he answered softly. The rabbit ran away to play again, but Teemo stayed quiet beside the lake. Deep inside, he wondered if he would ever become brave. The next morning, the forest was full of excitement. It was the day of the great forest picnic. Animals from everywhere gathered beside the lake with baskets full of delicious food. The birds sang cheerful songs from the trees. And little Mimi the squirrel danced around laughing happily. Mimi wore a tiny blue scarf and always smiled brightly. When she saw Teemo sitting alone beside the lake, she waved excitedly.
Come play with us. Maybe next time.
Maybe later, he replied quietly. Even though he stayed by himself, watching everyone happy made Teemo smile. For a little while, the forest felt warm, peaceful, and safe. But suddenly, everything changed. Dark clouds slowly covered the bright sky. The warm wind became cold and strong. Tree branches shook wildly. Then thunder rumbled loudly across the forest. Heavy rain began pouring from the sky. The peaceful lake quickly became rough and dangerous. Huge waves crashed against the shore. The animals gasped in fear. "Everyone run for shelter," shouted the birds.
The rain is getting worse,
cried the rabbits. Animals hurried in every direction trying to stay safe. But during the confusion, little Mimi slipped on the wet rocks near the lake. She fell onto a small rock surrounded by rushing flood water. The strong waves trapped her far from shore. The tiny squirrel held tightly onto the slippery rock as rain poured around her. "Help me!" she cried fearfully. The rabbits looked helpless. "The water is too dangerous." The birds tried flying closer, but the storm pushed them back. "No one can reach her," they cried. Everyone was afraid. And standing quietly near the shore was little Teemo. He stared at Mimi trapped in the middle of the storm. His heart beat faster and faster. He was terrified. The waves were huge. The rain was powerful. And the deep water was exactly what Teemo feared most. For a moment, he wanted to hide. But then, Teemo remembered something very important. Many years earlier, Teemo's mother once spoke to him beside the lake during another rainy day. She smiled warmly and said,
"Bravery isn't about being fearless, little one. It's about moving forward even when you are scared."
Those words echoed softly in Teemo's heart. Slowly, he lifted his head. The storm still roared around him. The rain still poured heavily. But something inside Teemo began to change. He took a deep breath. Then he said softly, "I'll save her." The animals looked at him in shock.
Too dangerous! Come back! The current is too strong. You can't make it.
Teemo nodded bravely, and before fear could stop him again, he stepped into the stormy water. Huge waves crashed against Teemo's tiny shell. The powerful water pushed hard against him, but Teemo kept moving forward, one small step at a time. Rain poured into his eyes. Thunder shook the sky. Lightning flashed above the lake. Still, Teemo did not stop. The animals watched silently from the shore. Slowly, bravely, the tiny turtle swam through the dangerous storm. Finally, after fighting the waves, Teemo reached Mimi's rock. Mimi looked at him with hope in her eyes. "Teemo," she cried. "Climb onto my shell," Teemo said gently. Mimi carefully climbed onto his back and held tightly. Then Teemo turned around toward the shore. But the storm grew even stronger. A giant wave crashed toward them. But Teemo kept swimming. His little legs pushed against the powerful water with all his strength. Slowly, little by little, they moved closer to safety. At last, Teemo reached the shore safely. The animals cheered with joy. He did it. The brave little turtle saved Mimi. Mimi hugged Teemo tightly. "Thank you for saving me," she whispered. At that moment, the storm finally began to fade away. The rain stopped. Golden sunlight shined across the lake once more. And high above the forest, a beautiful rainbow appeared. The animals gathered around Teemo proudly. For the very first time in his life, Teemo no longer felt small. Because true bravery is not about being fearless. It is about helping others even when you are afraid. And from that day on, whenever storms came to the forest, the animals remembered the tiny turtle with the biggest heart of all. And so, Teemo the turtle discovered something very special. Even the smallest heart can become the bravest heart in the world.
Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.